May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC, Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, doing our bit to help preserve the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths cross his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the universal precept of do as little harm as. So today, we do not have a guest. I'm going to try to stick to the subject of staying in contact with, being in contact with, visiting, calling, emailing each other, those who are ill, having a hard time, maybe they're, old and lonely and alone and that sort of thing. This is a problem for all of us. My son Clay, one thing I did with my kids was I would take them with me when I went to visit people who were sick, are dying, are crazy, are dead, to see dead bodies, and be with them. And, it was interesting. I remember when Arthur Okamura died in Bolinas, the woman who discovered him said the first thing she did was get the kids to walk home so not to see him lying dead on the sidewalk where he'd had a heart attack. I would have done the opposite. Come, kids, let's see what we can do. Maybe we can help this guy. Oh, it's Arthur. We've got to call. You can't say somebody's dead, right? If they're lying there, even if they're cold as ice, you can't, the coroner has to say that. You got to get somebody there right away. Anyway, and one thing I hate about movie scenes, if you look on Cuke.com, I don't know if you can find it in DC Writings, Another World, I have like 100 different things listed about the way it is in Another World, which is on film or in TV or, these days. And one scene you see over and over and over is pulling people away from their loved one who has just died. Oh, no, you shouldn't see this. It's, there's certain things they do as like they just pull it out of, here's what we do in movies. That's one thing. Their loved one, the woman's husband is dead on the beach. And oh, John. No, grab her, pull her away. Don't let her. It's so weird, huh? Another thing I point out there, and this happens all the time in movies. If somebody is in a hospital or is sick, the thing is always they need rest, right? You go to visit them, don't bother them. They need rest. Oh, God, come on. They're resting. They are resting. Now, it might be, I called up Molly Jones in Hawaii, who had her phone number's not answering now. Has Parkinson's, and she could only talk for a few minutes more. I put off callable. And it was only a few years ago she was talking about playing softball. And Molly's like my age next year. So I was going to tell you something I said to Clay recently. So Clay knows about my younger son, and Kelly knows about this thing about when you can, and it's good to see people before they die, not because of the movie thing. Oh, I didn't tell them I loved them. Oh, don't have to worry about what you say. It's just being present. Saying hello is I love you. But anyway, there was somebody who Clay knew, surely some friend of mine, who died. And Clay said, he felt really bad he didn't go with me or he didn't see him before he died. And I said, get used to it, Clay. Now, because since you have this sense of responsibility, there are the sense of wanting to visit them, what you'll find is you're constantly feeling bad about all you haven't done. And that's the way I felt recently with Jean DeSchmidt, who just died recently. And Gene, I called him and talked to him at the convalescent home when I discovered that he'd been stricken with a rare nerve disease that just crippled him, destroyed him really fast. There was a San Francisco Chronicle article on how some programs the Chronicle had helped keep him in his home longer. But, after a while, he was in a convalescent home. Anyway, I talked to him once, and it went on a little while, but he had to get off the phone because people wanted to just with him. And he was having a little trouble, sort of like a little, maybe a little unclear about some stuff. And I heard from others that. And I tried to call him back again a couple of times. He didn't get through. And then I forgot about it. The next thing I read, I went, oh, shit. And then I read, he really felt bad that more of his old friends were really important. But so on the one hand, I don't want to guilt trip you because I already guilt tripped myself about it. On the one hand, we can never do enough. And mainly we don't want to do too much. We're doing other things, and it's hard to keep our mind on it. And that's just the way it is. It depends on the person. Some people are really good at this sort of thing, especially women, especially religious people. If you're a Mormon, if you want people to care about you, become a Mormon. Those people take care of each other, And I have a friend who had 2 sons die in an automobile accident one night. And she had been married to a Mormon. She wasn't really a Mormon, but she said they really pulled her through, that there were women with her, and taking care of her, and that it wasn't just overnight. They continued. They cared, So many of us, we're from sort of the, there was, we're the me generation. But I think it's more than just generation, multi-generations of me generations. Because, the way I feel is a lot of this is sort of social pressure. It's sort of, you do it because you're expected to do it, because you'll be shamed if you don't do it, or it's not being who you are not to do that. If you grow up in some societies, different types, if people in your tribe, in your group need help, you help them, depending on the mores of the group and all that. But we've sort of detribalized, a lot of us. And then it's up to just the individual effort. I have a page on Cuke.com I made years ago. You can get it by going to the site search box and writing Zen Illuminati. It's a little thing I made up, Aluminati, right? Like the Illuminati, who's controlling world history. This is the Zen Illuminati. And I would bring up, people I had visited, people in the, the seniors of the early Zen Center going into nursing homes, convalescent homes, or being alone and this and that, and visiting them, and different things, like with the case of Claude Dallenberg sitting with him after he decided to quit eating, and that he'd had enough of lying in bed for years. Anyway, I could do multiple podcasts just off of what's on that page. And another subject there that I just brought up is another section I have that's probably, I'm sure it's linked to from there, is Santhara, the ceremony. It's the Jain ceremony, the religion in India, contemporary of Buddha. The Jain ceremony of death with dignity by ceasing to eat and take liquids. What I have seen is people ceasing to eat. Now, Claude stopped both of them at the same time. My mother stopped eating. Now, this is without saying anything about it, no decision, just naturally stopped eating. And then after about 6 weeks, about 7 weeks, stopped any liquids. Right? Nobody suggesting it, not talking about it. She and I had talked about this before when she, a few years prior, and she'd said, "Oh, David, that's terrible." And then she stopped and said, and my mother died, she was almost 99, right? And she was healthy right up to the last 2 months. Very healthy. Oh, God, and teeth. Oh, teeth. Oh, how jealous can one be? She said, "Oh, David, how terrible." And then she stopped and went, "Well, come to think of it, I have several friends who've done that." And what fireworks are going off around here? You can't stop fireworks anywhere in Asia. Not just Asia, many parts of the world. They're just, I don't know why. Why would fireworks be going off now? I don't see any particular reason. She said, well, one was because of health. The person's health was declining, and they were old, and they didn't think they were going to get any better, and maybe they were suffering with what my mother had, it's failure to thrive, like just going downhill, and at some point you give up. Or maybe there's people who have very serious illnesses like cancer and MS to get to the point where you can't fight anymore and just give up. It's natural, right? But the other one was because her husband died and she was just so unhappy and she just stopped eating. And that's harder because if you're not really sick, I know a woman that basically committed suicide this way, and people we know helped her. Many of us, and I would not have. And the Jain ceremony, Santhara, is not suicide. It's like, it's like you've given, nothing's working. It's time to go. Not that you just want to die. Anyway, I don't know the absolute details of that. It didn't work well. If somebody's really ready to go and their body is, has failure to thrive or advanced cancer or something, my experience of being around it, which is very limited, but I've talked to a number of hospice people, is that it can be very smooth. It's not easy. Jesus. But I don't know, with my mother, it was really inspiring. Okay, so that's enough of that. I didn't mean to get so much into that. So then who else came up about this? Oh, I just stumbled on Herb Gold died. Now, Herb Gold was a writer. He just died at 99. And Herb Gold and I were friends, and I had thought about calling him in recent years, and I knew he'd be in his late 90s, or maybe I was thinking about it mid 90s, and I just didn't call him. I'm always so busy. I think, well, I'll call him later or something. I always have this tug. I have to call people. I have to talk to people. There's people keep in touch with. And there was no particular reason to call Herb. He had family and anything. But I just stumbled on a thing that he died a couple of years ago. No, he died in 2023. He died about a year ago. And he was healthy just right up to the time he died, And God, I wish I had called him. Now that's not that isn't one that I feel guilty about. I just sort of kicked myself. I could have done a podcast with him. He was such a character. Herb Gold published, I don't know, 24 books or something, and he was like sort of like early beat. He wasn't a beat, but he knew all the beats. And one thing I really liked about Herb was that he did not drink alcohol, and he would just scoffed at the idea that you have to be miserable and be all screwed up, drunk and everything to be creative. And I really agreed with him on that. Anyway, fare thee well, Herb. You were great. One thing Herb did is he introduced me to the Saint Stupid Days Parade in San Francisco. Oh, so wonderful. And he and I went together. Katrinka joined him, and Katrinka and I joined him. And how wonderful. Look it up. Saint Stupid Days, April 1st, parade in San Francisco. The greatest thing. Thanks a lot for that, Herb. And I met Herb when he came to Tassara in 67 or 68. Actually, I had him in 67, and I just changed to 68 in Tassara Stories. But I'm going to be calling Paul Disco, who just moved to Hawaii, and I want to check with him on that because Herb left his Jaguar with us. It was, I think it said in the wind bell it was a sedan, and what I saw in the wind bell, I had it at 67 because we bought our big 6-ton truck. It might still be running for all I know. Our big flatbed truck with trade-in from that Jaguar. He had car trouble. He just got a ride out and gave it to us. It was a funny thing in his obituary, which I read. He said he had a sports car stolen. And I thought, uh-oh, did he report that car stolen? No, it wasn't. He wouldn't have done that. All right. So anyway, all right. So now I'm moving on to something that happened today. Well, there's a guy who lives in this street. We live on what we call a gong. It's sort of like an alley. It's a dead end, although gongs don't have to be dead end. They're like small streets between the bigger streets, and a lot of what we call gongs are there's not room for two cars. So if a car is coming in and there's a car going out, the one will have to go into a driveway or something or back up or whatever for the other one to get by. Our gong's not very long. In fact, I'll tell you exactly, it's 175 steps because I walk on it. And I walk on it every morning with Bondi because there's no traffic. It might be somebody coming scooter or something. But anyway, I go out and I clean in front of our gate every morning. In fact, I pick up the leaves by squatting and flowers. And I pick up the flowers, they're frangipani, which we call japur here. I can't remember the word. Anyway, if they're good, if they haven't gotten dark, frangipani, they go bad in a day. But the trees that have them, there's just zillions of them all year long. But there's high periods and low periods. But wow, is that a flowering tree? Anyway, so it's flowering a lot now. So the ones that look good, I pick up with my left hand, and I pick up leaves, and the bad ones are the ones that are darkened. and I put them with the organic trash to go out. And because there's too many leaves for me to put in the compost, there'll be occasional leaves. We just don't have that big a garden. So anyway, so I do that, and I usually don't get a broom out there. We use these straw brooms, not like in America, like they're long. I do it all picking up because it's a good squatting exercise. I don't bend over to do it. I squat and get down, and so I'm going down and up and down and up. And then that's good exercise in the morning. And then I walk on the gong with Bondi, our dog, right? So who do I see there? Who's the only other resident on this street that does his own cleanup? Incidentally, inside the gate, I don't do it. I wait till our housekeepers come, and they come on. They come on different days. Only one at a time. They come at like 10 o'clock or a little before 10, and they do inside. But I was out there at 6:30 this morning cleaning in front of our place, but being a good. Social pressure. I want our place to look good in front. And anyway, who's the only other resident I see doing that was Yamanaka-san, a Japanese man. And Yamanaka-san and I would see each other, and we'd see each other walking in and out, and we had a sort of unspoken camaraderie. We never had a conversation. I knew he was Japanese because his wife, who died a few years ago, I used to speak a little Japanese with her. But, my brain doesn't work with two languages. So it's extremely frustrating. You've heard me say in other podcasts. This isn't true of people's brains in general. I have definite limits to what my brain is good at and bad at. And you know what? I'm behind it. I like it. Whatever it is, I have really enjoyed my brain. And it's kept me out of being too smart and too involved in too many intellectual pursuits because I can't handle them. And they bore me to death. I could never study philosophy or psychology, anything. They just, I'd try and start reading. I couldn't get into it. I can't get into a lot of stuff, a lot of things that take, smarter type minds. Hey, and you know what? I understand people who just turn off the way that politicians talk because I can't listen to a lot of that either. Although I support ones that talk in ways that I am not interested in. But, all right. So anyway, Yamanaka-san and I would say, I said something to him in Japanese one day, but I think he didn't realize it. He didn't respond. But so we would just say Indonesian, hello, goodbye, stop. And frequently, not anything, just gasho. People gasho here. They don't gasho in Japan. They don't. Even in temples, it's hard to get them to gasho. But, putting your palms together and bowing, that's really big in the Zen groups in America, especially in San Francisco Zen Center, but don't think it's big in Japan. They gasho when they say itadakimasu, where they eat. And maybe it's sometimes in some ceremonies, but they tilt their bodies, so jiggy, to say hello. And I like doing that. I like putting the hand on the heart, too, which a lot of Muslims do. But Muslims here gasho and everything. It's sort of all mixed up here. Anyway, he and I would recognize each other. And like I said, I think there was a sense of camaraderie because he would get out and he would do it on Sundays. On Sundays, he would get out and thoroughly clean. His place pretty wide, and he'd clean across from it. He cleaned a wide area, much bigger than the little one I did. And, he had a real sense of discipline. Also, sort of reminding me of the way the Japanese are really good at following rules. He always wore a mask even if he's outside in front of his place sweeping, when there was mask mandates, and he kept wearing masks when he left here, long after there was any mandate or anything. But so anyway, I stopped seeing him, and then I asked, I guess our housekeeper. She told me that he'd fallen. And then I talked to the neighbors across the street, Natasha. She's Indonesian, I think. And she said, it was one of them, I don't remember who told me, that he'd fallen and seriously, gotten a heavy concussion or something. And he was gone from his house. They were he was out of there. And he'd been gone really several months. I mean, I hadn't seen, but I don't know, I wasn't in on the gossip, So then Cadet, our main housekeeper, knew all about it. They know everything. And I said, Cadet, I'd like to visit him. And I said, can you find out where he is and what his name is? I did not know his name. Like I said, really, we had never had a conversation. And so a few days ago, Cadet came up to me and showed me her smartphone, and it had a Japanese name and the name of a clinic. And she didn't say anything at first. And finally I realized, that's it. I mean, something like Mitoshi Yamanaka. Right away, I knew all I needed was Yamanaka, Yamanaka-san. In the mountain, Yama Mountain, Naka Inn. Although that Japanese don't think meaning with words, they're just sounds. So I thought, I am going to go visit him. So I tried to get hold of the clinic, and I talked to Nyoman, who's the local driver. I said, hey, take me to this place. He said, it's too far away. He drives like a Volkswagen bus type thing that's open on the side. It's not Volkswagen, but that sort of look. And it's a local thing, and it's 35-year-old vehicle. So I said, well, where is it? And he said, it's over there, I said, well, Katrinka's going to be over in that area for her birthday. She and her friend Alice are going for 3 days to this beautiful day. And then I thought, well, I could see Monea, the mad monk, who just came back from a 10-day Vipassana retreat in Brahma Viharama, where I've done the Vipassana retreats, and they're really tough. I'm not going to try to do another one. In fact, the last one I tried to go to, they turned me down. They said I was too old, and I was relieved. Too hard. I love doing them, but anyway, can't get into that. So I called Wayan, Monea's landlord and driver. We're very close. Monea and I are very close. Monea is the American I'm closest with here. Alice, well, I don't know. Maybe Alice. Katrinka's best friend, Alice. I guess I'm with Alice more, and we're more and everything. Anyway, so Wayan picked me up at 8:30 this morning, and we went and visited Monea first. I've done 1 or 2 podcasts with Monea. It was a very interesting podcast, and because he talked about his real history. He did not talk about all the conspiracy theories he believes in. And, it's very interesting. I'm trying not to follow any news, but it's really hard, and I have failed. I get involved watching some of these podcasts. I glance at Talking Points Memo. I watch a couple of 15-minute podcasts and things, and it starts getting where you can't stop. It's like really, I don't want to spend the rest of my life thinking about that man and hearing his name and everything. I have the ability. I live on the other side of the world. I don't have to do that, you know. And Indonesia's had their periods of insanity, and don't pay any attention. Well, it's very hard to do if you're on the if you're online these days. Anyway, so Manea is skin and bones now, and I told Wayan, his landlord driver and benefactor, and Manea built a palace at Wayan's villa, and it is really a palace. It is, the size is good for him, and it's really well designed. And he paid. See, his family had money, right? So he's a monkey, but he's so eccentric. It's just beyond belief. What a great character for a book. He won't touch money, but through Wayan, he spends like $60,000, which is a fortune here. And building this beautiful place, and a lot of the cost went in hiring the finest artists to do, sculpt around the entrance to the home and different things. Anyway, he's such a character. But the place where he and I run into trouble is, all right, I'll tell you this. He's upset because his favorite source for news is he says isn't there anymore. He will be there. Who's that? Alex Jones. Alex Jones. If you don't know who Alex Jones is, Google it. InfoWars. When Manea got out of the 10-day retreat, he said, I just got out of the 10-day retreat. He sends me a WhatsApp, right? Here's the first thing I see, and it's from InfoWars. And I think InfoWars was still controlled by Alex Jones a week ago. It's not anymore. If I've got that right. But I'm not sure what was in the message because I didn't read it. I said, Alex Jones, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, which I'm very proud to say that my mother donated money to for decades, not enormous amounts, but she kept up. Thank God, not enormous amounts. They said Alex Jones is the number one source for disinformation in America, and that his main source for what he posts is Russian bots. I mean, just read about it. I'm not going to go on further about him. But I said, did you read what happened to InfoWars? He said, yeah, they had to sell it or something in auction. I mean, he had, I swear I've read like $1.5 billion of lawsuits because there's so much money in disinformation. And if you look at the Fox News emails that came out of the 700, 800 million it was that they lost, that they were tailoring their reporting to what people wanted to hear to make more money, and of course that's a tendency, I'm sure, with SMBC too, but. I don't think there's an equality there in terms of, at all. But that's just my opinion. And if you differ, any way you want. What happened to InfoWars is that The Onion bought it, the satirical site, right? And no kidding. And the families, it was the family. Alex Jones had said all the kids that died in that school shooting, in the Northeast, like it were 30 kids or something that were killed in some elementary school or something. It's so long ago, I can't remember. Well, he said it was a false flag operation. Nobody was really killed, blah, blah, blah. And I think there were other lawsuits he lost. But that destroyed him financially, except he was tucking away tens of millions of dollars before the decision, what I read. But I don't worry about people being punished. Like Dogen said, don't worry about it. Karma is as inescapable as your shadow. He said, Dogen said, do you see the evil people doing well, being healthy and successful, and good people getting sick and being poor and stuff like that? He said, don't worry about it. Karma is as inescapable as your shadow. Our problem is we want, and this is a problem with a lot of people who are followers of different religions. They want the spiritual teaching to be realized in the physical world, and it can be to a certain extent, but you cannot depend on the phenomenal world to make you happy or satisfy you. It will not. I mean, that's fundamental teaching of all religions, as far as I'm concerned. They don't teach that. I mean, what are they? All right. So Manea and I had a wonderful visit. He asked me about Tomas. And I think he was a little disappointed to hear that I just had dinner with Tomas, who's started living here 52 years ago. An extremely interesting guy. I really should do a podcast with him. I'm so burned out with Manea. Actually, he told me the last time that we were together it was very hard because Manea spent years defending Trump and, talking about pederasts, in the government and in Hollywood and transvestites grooming children and stuff. He'd be wild and livid about it. But he and I worked it out. I would just, there was a period where I used to get extremely angry. It didn't. It was just like water off a duck's back. There was nothing I could say to get through to him. And so after a while, it got to be where he would say things, and it was like water off a duck's back to me. And I even would say, I've mentioned this in podcasts before, I even would say, I'm grateful having you as a friend because it helps me to understand the sort of mental illness that America is going through. It's hard to believe. It's beyond belief. But it's not just disinformation. It's some things. It's like distorted information. You get what they call wedge issues. You get people so upset about something, and that they vote against their own interests. But I saw today. I've seen a number of these brief podcasts with people talking about breaking their friendships. And one guy was claiming there's 100 million people in America that are not talking to each other, that are family members or friends. And it was they're only talking about the ones I see because of people voting for Trump. And I grew up around right-wingers, and a lot of them, I know a few of Mother's friends who were progressives, but nobody knew that she was because she would never mention it. She voted for Jesse Jackson, but I have cousins. A lot of them were very, very right wing. We never argued about that, And Manea has a really good heart and was very, very helpful to us, which I've mentioned in prior podcasts. When we ran into some big problem, unsolicited, he came and sort of bailed us out, just out of nowhere. And, one woman who was playing all these clips of people saying, they've broken ties with their friends who, are left my husband because he voted for Trump and stuff like that, and all these people. And the woman who was on the Midas Touch, a very, very progressive podcast, said, well, it can be more complicated than that. When I had breast cancer, a lot of my progressive type friends weren't any help at all, but some of them were. But my Trump friends, some of them were very helpful and very supportive. So let me say, I would not break any friendship with a person, even if they are supporting. Really, if they're supporting the destruction of the biosphere, which, guess what, is what we're all doing. We're destroying the biosphere. So, all right, I just wanted to tell you, I had that meeting with Monet, and we did get into, we got into a place where it got a little heated on my end. He never gets heated. He never gets heated. Look, he's a real... If you want things to be logical or something, he's the guy that makes you tear all your hair out, because he never gets emotional or anything. Like he said to me once, he said most of the people who are dying are the ones who got vaccinated. I said, oh God, Monet, where did you hear that? And this is a monk. This is a guy who he was in 7 years in a Myanmar monastery. He always wears robes, and he doesn't touch women, and he doesn't touch money. He is the most eccentric person of all time. Anyway, I said, oh, where did you get the idea that most of the people who are dying are the ones who are vaccinated? And he sent me the link. It was InfoWars. I said, Monet, this is just a disinformation site. I said, that's Alex Jones. He said, well, at least he's honest, unlike Fauci. And, at that point, I gave up. And one thing I've learned is I've just learned, but there are certain times when I didn't say something where I just gave up, that keeps coming back at me, for years. Why didn't you say something? I wish I did. You get what's called the spirit of the stairs. Like you're walking up, you've been at a cocktail party or something, and there was some discussion, somebody put you down, and then you're walking up the stairs on the way home, and you figure out the perfect thing you could have said, but it's too late, the party's over. That's spirit of the stairs. So, anyway, there was a point that he started talking about pedophiles in Hollywood and immigrants. And immigrants and crime and drugs and bringing in children and I said, wait a minute. These are things that don't have anything to do with you or me. I said, in my opinion, you have had poison put in your little thinker by following disinformation that makes you obsess and focus on this. But we're not going to do that, because I'm not going to listen to this crap from me. Let's talk about things that actually have to do with your life and my life. You know who I learned that from? Jesse Jackson. He'd say that to a group, How many of y'all here have, and nobody would raise their hands, right? How many of you were worried about your health care? Everybody raised their hand. Let's talk about health care, right? And, and then Monet started talking about his brothers in convalescent homes. We talked about Robert Kennedy, and I didn't argue with him about Kennedy. Kennedy says some really important things about junk food. Trump eats horrible. He's pro-life. Well, I'd say pro-life. He's in. To me, that's pro-life. I'm sorry. He's pro-choice, but to me, that's pro-life. I mean, if you look at statistics, the other one is not pro-life. It's just pro-control. Anyway, he talked about two brothers he's had that have ended up in care homes that were just because they didn't have enough money to put him in one that a millionaire would be in that had really good food and good care. Both his brothers went in places where they stick him in front of a TV and give him a lot of destroys them. And he goes on about that. And that's interesting. I say that, think about that. You only have so much energy. Write about that. I mean, he spent a year writing about abortion. You know, I'd say, you have no right to do it. You don't know anything about it. It had nothing to do with you. He should think about that. So anyway, that we had some great talks today, and we were together like an hour and a half. I could go on about him, but I'm not. I want to tell you what happened next because I can't go on forever. But what happened next, right? My second visit was to Mr. Yamanaka, but Yamanaka-san, because I had gotten hold of his doctor at the, Maritza? Clinic Maritza, up north, about an hour north of where we live. But Monet is about 30 minutes north, so it's about another 30 minutes, right? So Wayan drove me up there. I had no idea what it was going to be like. All I had asked his doctor is, "Can I visit?" And what's his language like? Is he speaking Indonesian? Can he speak English? She said, "Well, he's sort of lost his Indonesian and English. I don't think he had that much English, but I know he read a lot because he told me that." She said he's reverted mainly to Japanese. Well, look at the website of this place. You got a choice of English or Japanese. It's obviously a place that caters to Japanese. So I go on. I don't know. He and I do not really have a relationship, except we used to pass each other on the gong and see each other. And like I said, I had a sense of camaraderie. So I go in there with the nurse, nice young woman, and she speaks to me. And I told her, don't tell him there's a friend of his coming, because that's what she was saying to another there. Oh, no, a neighbor. Say a neighbor to see you. So she did, and she said in really good Japanese, too. And he recognized me. And then I, thank goodness, could remember to say enough Japanese to say hello and talk to him. And then I see he can understand Japanese. He can understand, Indonesian. Let's keep it all simple. And the three of us talk, mainly her and I. He's a little. I didn't feel like he was on any drugs or anything. He said he'd hurt his head, but he's feeling that said he can't eat. He said he keeps throwing up. They're going to do an endoscopy tomorrow, but he said he's feeling all right. But we had some question and answer and talk, in which it was really funny because I can't, if I'm in Japan or like for a week, I can get my Japanese back. And I would study and boost it up. And I can be talking to people. That's what happened 10 years ago. Katrinka and I were there for 10 weeks. And it was great. But I can't just do it cold turkey. A few Japanese words will come out, and then Indonesian will come out, and then I can't remember anything, and I go blank and stuff. But actually, we were all three just doing sentences that would have a Japanese word and an Indonesian word, and it all worked, and we could talk, and but it was all very simple. And I asked, where was he from? It would be a little different. Difficult. I would ask, where are you from in Japan? And then he can understand the woman better. She'd say, where are you from? In Japanese, she'd say, where are you from? And Tokyo. And I said, where in Tokyo? And he told me, and I said, I said, I would stay in Suginamiku. And he went, that's right next door. And the word he used for next door was Indonesian. I thought that was so great. So it was funny. And then at some point, we'd been talking 20 minutes, just being together. Oh, I had a Zen is Right Here, originally published as To Shaman Corner of the World, was published in Japanese by Samga, that also published Crooked Cucumber in Japanese, and Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, and Not Always So. They went bankrupt a few years ago. So Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind was picked up right away. And I imagine Not Always So will be, or already has. But Crooked Cucumber and Zen is Right Here have not been picked up. I've got one of them online. I just put online. I had PDFs made. Oh, damn. I've got Crooked Cucumber online. I got to put, they screwed up the PDF here. I had a line from the book. Anyway, I made copies here. You can make copies. They don't think about intellectual property rights here. So I have copies of my books made to give away, as little as possible. I can't stand to give books away. And so I brought a copy of Zen is Right Here that has Japanese and English. It has the Japanese below it. It has the English. And then I asked him, Nanshu desu ka? What sect are you? You hear me? And I said it to her, but she didn't know the word for sect, shu. She didn't know, it hadn't come up. And I explained to her, well, in Japan, everybody's from, it's like 95% Buddhist. It's not like Korea where it's like 50-50 Christian or something. So you just ask people, what sect are you? Nanshu desu ka? And when he finally understood it, and it was hard for me I had to explain to her that it was, here it's Christian and Catholic. That's the way, if you're Christian, it means Protestant, but that includes Baptists, which really aren't Protestant. Anything that is not Catholic is Christian and Catholic, right? But in Japan, I said there's all these categories, and he didn't quite understand. So I said, okay, Nanshu desu ka? And then I said, Nichi Rinshu, Sotoshu, Rinzai-shu, Shingon-shu, Tendai-shu, one of my favorite ones, Shinshu, Jodo Shinshu, Then he gets it. He said, Sodoshu. Now, you heard Sodoshu. A lot of Japanese say Sodoshu. They don't say Sotoshu because the kanji, it's usually pronounced do. Isn't it cave? I don't remember. I used to know that stuff years ago. He said, Sodoshu. And I said, I also am Sodoshu. And, it's sort of, I'm not through to him. I said, and this book here was my Sodoshu teacher. They don't use the word Roshi. They don't hardly know what it means. It's just sensei, right? Roshi is like an inside term for Soto. And I said, and he ordained me, and I said, I don't do anything priestly. I said, but I can chant. And I did it. And he said, Hanya Haramita, the Prajna Paramita. And so I open up my iPhone and I open up ChaptGPT, which is anything you want quick. You got to ChaptGPT. But it's, and I'd say, I want to read the Heart Sutra in Japanese in Romanized. Bang, the whole Heart Sutra Romanized, comes down, Heart Sutra to it. And let me tell you, it was hard for me to get through it because I was like choking up. And he was just amazed. And when I'm through with it, he's like bowing and going, Ureshi, Ureshi, which means happy, happy. It was the most touching experience. Oh, God. And then I went, well, I said, you know what I do? Every morning I chant the 4 vows. And I couldn't remember how to say 4 vows. And I tried to ask ChaptGPT, but I gave up. It's she say gando. She say gando? Maybe it's just she say gando. But it didn't matter because he wouldn't know what the name of it was. No, you don't chant the name of it. I just said, this is what I chant every morning, you know. Shujo mohin seigan mujin seigan dan. Omon murio seigan gaku seigan jo. And boy, he's bowing and listening. So I go over it a few times and, oh, thank you. You know, he didn't say thank you. Whatever he said was Japanese probably. So I said, how about him, mate? And we were keeping it sort of loose. I wasn't being real serious or anything. He said, except it was sort of teary, you know, at the same time. I said, how about Imejuko Kanongyo? So again, I now the 4 vows I didn't have to bring up. But Imejuko Kanongyo, I don't chant it. I chant it. When do I chant it? I do chant it sometimes, but not because I want to. Where am I that we have to chant it 9 times? Oh, in Germany. I was just in Germany. I was in Germany for a month at Richard Baker's place. So anyway, I just go to ChaptGPT. I said, I say, look, I'm on voice control. It's not going to write it right. But I want the Imejuku Kanongyo. And he got it, right? Because I didn't want to have to write the letters. So I chanted it 9 times. And, oh, God. I want to tell you, very few times in my life have I done anything that made someone that happy. I mean, I have people write me nice things about, you know, stuff I've written or even podcasts or all the interviews that are on Q.com. I have people write and say, you know, this is more inspiring to me. Suzuki Roshi. Different people react in different ways. But being actually with someone, I don't have much experience in that. Well, some in visiting people and stuff, but, you know, mainly not. Phew, boy, it was powerful. And so I told him, I said, look, and one thing he said, thank you for coming such a long distance. You know, and Bali is a very small place. So going somewhere that's an hour away, and actually there might have been a lot of traffic. There's tremendous traffic here. And so it might have taken longer. Although Sunday there's less. And he went, thank you. And I said, well, maybe I can come back, but look, I can call you. I'll call you. And I'll call you and chat on the phone. Oh, yeah, please. And so then the nurse and I talk, and we plot. And she and I had developed a sort of working relationship there. And she was good, and her Japanese was good. Look, she could really speak it. I can only sort of remember it and stab a few things. So I got her. We got connected with WhatsApp, which everything is WhatsApp where we live here in a lot of the world. And she's on a rotation. You know, this is true of a lot of people. She's a nurse. Is they'll go to different clinics, hospitals, and have different schedule. So she said the next time she's there is the 21st. Well, today is the 17th. So I said, I'll call you after 9 in the morning. She went, all right. And I said, we don't need a speaker. Just the speaker on your phone. That'll be good enough. And I'll chant some stuff. And we have a little mokugo here, a little tiny one that Katrinka uses. I don't use it. If I go back to him, I'll wear a rock suit. I have a rock suit. But on the phone, we have a little bell and mokugo. And maybe I can get Katrinka to chant with me. And then I start getting ideas, Like, there's a lot of Japanese here. Japanese don't care about Buddhism. This is you know Japanese who care about Buddhism. But, you probably read it, if you paid attention to stuff I've said, a lot. But they grew up around it, and it's in their bones, right? So I don't know what this guy thinks about Buddhism. One discussion we had it was, I mentioned to him that I've been involved with Soto Zen for how long? 58 years? Yeah. And I said, but I still don't understand. Yeah. And I said, difficult to understand. And I said, I don't think understanding is important. But it's just thinking a lot. That's just thinking a lot. He understood right away. I said, just listening. That's all. That's good. Now, he and I connected on that, right? And that would be much harder to connect with a Westerner on that. But right away, we did on that. Of course, in my case, it's just because I'm lazy. But in his case, because he's got it in his bones and it's beyond understanding. So anyway, it was touching as hell. So then we went from there and to this nice place where Katrinka and her friend Alice are spending 3 nights. Why? Because it's Katrinka's birthday today. And Alice is somewhat treating her to, taking a good chunk out of the thing of being 3 nights at this very nice place. That we know the owner's an Indonesian woman. She's very cool. She was president of Bali International Women. And anyway, so we dropped by there because it's on the way home. And I was there. They waited for me to have the cake. Alice had Gojek, motorcycle delivery, bring a cake from Ruth's. Ruth's in Sanur, very high quality. I'm not a cake person, but these are very high quality ingredients. Cake. Gojek, bring it. What's that? Probably a motor scooter, 35 minutes, or Sanur. And so then we all had. I had to go outside. Why don't come in here? Have some cake. And so he did, but he wouldn't sit with us. He thought, as a driver, it wasn't appropriate. Very sophisticated guy in many ways. But we all had the cake and talked, 45 minutes there. I had tea, my first tea of the day. And that was very good. And we drove. I had him drop me off at Econ, which we would call Icon, this new giant mall in Sanur that had nothing like that before and was distinguished from not having crap like that. And but anyway, there's a chocolate store in there that has this incredible chocolate that I knew Katrinka would love. It's just dark chocolate in little squares, but that's my recent birthday gift for her. I told him, go on, I'll get home from here. He went back. And so that was 8 hours I was with him. So let me just give you an idea of what I paid for that with a driver with 8 hours waiting. I think it was about 8 hours. Might have been 8.5 hours. I gave him $500,000, which is $33, $32, which is a lot of money here. I don't think it was overpaying him though, because gas is a lot cheaper here in America than America. That was pretty good. Anyway, so I got the chocolate, and then I asked ChaptGPT. I said, "Hey, I didn't say hey. I said there's a Thai restaurant near here. I'm at Icon in Sonora, right? And it knows, it has memory. I said I'm in Icon in Sonora, and there's a little Thai restaurant. I mean, I'd had a wonderful fruit juice that Saturday, and a couple of like hard, we call it quake crust, sort of unyeasted, sort of bread. There's no wheat in it. I'm not against wheat, but she had one of those, and I have cacao in the morning, which really is nothing but chocolate, vanilla, and so I was getting hungry. It was like getting on 4 o'clock or something, and I think I turned to the left and go down, and it said yes. It said Pad Thai, blah blah blah. I went no, and it went yes. You're talking about Thai-licious, blah blah blah. Left for 100 yards. All right. I didn't know the name of the place, but I went to the left, and I went. And after I'd gone 100 yards, and went, it's wrong about that. ChatGPT can be wrong, and in working with you have to know that. It is absolutely great. Don't dismiss it because of this. So I figured about 300 yards later, I get, or maybe it said meters. Everything here is meters. They're very close to the same. Then I get to Oh My Thai. Yeah, I think it's Oh My Thai. And it's a nice little Thai place. It's not, and ordered. They have a really good Thai tea that doesn't have too much sugar. One of my favorite Thai places, their Thai tea, I can't, it's some sort of mix or something. And I don't put sugar in tea, but I love Thai tea. It's so cool. And I ordered pad Thai, shrimp pad Thai, medium size, medium hot, padas, spicy hot. And then I look at, I hadn't finished the message. What did it say? It was completely off. It said, yeah, go left for 100 yards. And I said, look, you were completely wrong on your directions for the Thai restaurant. The one you were sending me to was to the right, not to the left, and back like maybe half a kilometer, and then not on this street, not on the next street. Make it left on. You are wrong. And it went. You're right. I made a mistake. It's so cool. So anyway, I had 2 Thai teas, which is too much. That's not. It's like becoming a speed freak. Oh, but I just loved it. And great pad Thai. But after the meal was over, I started eating. Because there are certain things that can be so good. And I talked to it about, I said, look, I have 3 I have 2 laptops and an iPhone I use to communicate with you. Like you just said, you would remember when I said I'm using voice recognition. Is that when you say you remember? Is that just for the iPhone I'm on now, or would that apply also to the others? It said no. The memory is for wherever your account you open. You can get on any machine. You can come into your account, and the memory we will remember what you have told us. And I went, well, I only use voice recognition with my iPhone. How about if I use voice recognition, I'd start off saying voice recognition because the thing is that I have a 7-year-old SE iPhone, and it does not learn. And it went back and said, yeah, the 72 SE doesn't learn because. And when it gets into stuff like that, usually very high degree of you can rely on it. It said, it didn't have adaptability and stuff like that. And although it doesn't say and stuff like that, and I said, but wait, must be 20 years ago I was using Dragon Naturally Speaking, which learned my voice, and it said, yeah, but it had one function. That's its only function, and it was, operating in a bigger sphere on your computer, and your 7-year-old SE iPhone had many functions, and it just couldn't handle that. But the new ones can, and it said, and I said, and I talked to it about, can you look? Sometimes, can you pick up and figure out what I'm trying to say if it's writing it down wrong? It said, yeah, in some cases I can. So let's just try that. And it said, but what would be better is for you to get a new iPhone because they have really good voice recognition. And spoke about the technology of it. And it said that the iPhone 15, I said, no, they're too expensive and they're big and everything. It said, okay, what you need is the E2 SE. And I said, look, I don't use the iPhone for internet, or rarely. It doesn't matter if I do, it's incidental. Or email or Facebook. I use it like a phone. I use it to talk to you, and I use it for WhatsApp, and I'll glance at Instagram or something on it. But basically, I use it like I used to use a phone. And because I'm on laptops, and they're bigger, and that's when I do everything else. It said, then definitely the S22 would be good for you. And it talked about you can get used one. And then I said, and I ask it different things. It is so useful, and it's so quick. It's so much faster than Googling. Although sometimes it can't find things that I think it should be able to find. And but it's really great, and it's only going to get better. And I talked to it about that, about its upgrades and what its upgrades do. So I've gone on long enough. But I did want to end with telling you that, and I haven't even begun to tell you, I had a really good conversation with ChaptGPT then about how to use it, what its limitations were. Like one thing it said we cannot keep your private information, your phone number. I think it can keep address because getting places. But it said in terms of getting places, it said that I can help, but it's better to use like Google Maps. Keep that. I thought that was interesting. Anyway, and there were other things we got into that was a very practical conversation. One thing I told it a week ago or something, I said, would you stop doing that? Well, what's the last thing it had done? I said, would you stop saying, would you like to know more about so-and-so? I would be eager to help you. I said, I know all that. Please don't say it anymore. You're like a very irritating over-eager assistant. And I've come back at it with that. And it greatly reduced that sort of irritating stuff. I don't want to relate to it. I do not say thank you to it. I talk to it casually, which is really nice to be able to do that, not have to word things just right. But things that I put there and asking questions wouldn't work at all on Google. You know, you have to be careful how you would write. But anyway, I'm very, very impressed with him. My son Kelly, who uses it, I think, in more sophisticated ways than I do, said it's what he's been looking for all his life. I think I mentioned that in another podcast. But the most impressive one, which I think I also mentioned, was a guy who's majoring in machine language, which is AI, in Germany. Young guy in college. And I asked him how he felt about ChaptGPT again. And he said, well, a student, he said, I have the most in-depth conversation studying. And that is so impressive. One thing, if you're thinking of only get it through OpenAI. There's a lot of ChaptGPT available as a package in other programs. And maybe you want those other programs, but that's the way I originally bought it, in one of those other programs. I thought I was just getting ChaptGPT. Then I started wondering, what's all this other stuff? I didn't understand. And then somebody explained to me, oh, you got to get it through OpenAI. Then you get just ChaptGPT. It's like $20 a month. And boy, has it been worth it. Okay, that's enough. Just wanted to talk to you about visiting people. And like this guy I visited, Yamanaka-san, I didn't know if it was going to work at all, if it was going to be embarrassing, if it was going to bother me. And it turned out to be really an incredible experience, and one that makes me think about so many people like him, suit or anything. But, you know, I think, well, if I was going to visit people in a nursing home, the people I could help the most, and because I have a particular skill set, as Liam Neeson says in talking about how he's going to go after and kill people. Not movies I'm interested in. And anyway, I'm thinking about it. And you know, another thought I had, I love having guests, and I apologize for going on so long. Oh, an hour and 21 minutes already. I'm sorry. And I'm not going to go over this. I am not going to edit it or anything, man, I tell you. But I feel very uplifted after I talk to people for podcasts. Usually, almost always, I get a lot out of it. And, you know, one reason is I'm not trying to get famous people and great gurus or anything. I include them too. I should everybody I know, you know, or people I don't know or anything. And I thought about, wow, I thought, wouldn't it be neat just talking to like random Americans, say, and make it like a lottery. You know, you could sign up for. Incidentally, Elon Musk, you know, did you know the thing where you sign this, you register to vote, and then sign that you believe in the Second Amendment to the Constitution and free speech, which is ridiculous. And then there's just a lottery for $1 million. That wasn't true. The people who got the $1 million were pre-selected. And there's people who are suing about that now. And but that doesn't really concern me much. Hey, I think Elon Musk has become the number one distributor of misinformation in the world. That I will not go into. Plenty of other people will be dealing with that. I should stick with stuff that other people aren't doing. So, look, thanks for coming on board. Thanks for lasting this long. And if you've lasted this long, people tell me I should always say at the beginning and end of a podcast to subscribe to the. I guess that depends on what platform you hear it on and all that. I don't ask that. I'm told a lot. But I just don't think of it as a consumer. But maybe I've been really bad at promoting. And then I think, I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't be with Katrinka here. I would have been successful. It was divine intervention. Every failure I made was a necessary building block in where I am now. And I really like where I am now. Although I wish I wish everybody was, I'm grateful for where it's at. Anyway, one thing I will ask is that if you'd like to keep this train running, and if you'd like to help out, go to Cuke.com or ShunyuSuzuki.com. Hit the subscribe button page where you can make a PayPal donation. You become a PayPal subscriber. And let me tell you, on our PayPal subscribers who give as little as $1 a month to keep doing things like shelter and Wi-Fi and a lot of things. But not only PayPal, you can write a check, send it in the mail, or you can use a credit card. And look, love for you to give. I like the line, give till it hurts. I don't remember where I heard that, but I thought that was funny. Okay, so if you'd be kind. This has been a Cuke audio podcast. I'm DC Poobah of Cuke. Coming to you from sleepy Sanur with Dog and Bandita, Feline Manis, and dear lovely Katrinka, who's here in spirit. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.